I came across something the other day when I was going through the 2010 Constitution of the People's Republic of Kenya that I thought I should share with you. This is by far the most important document that will ever be in your possession as long as you still retain identity as a Kenyan. This document supersedes any other document and every other document you might have in your possession. This document supersedes your academic transcripts. This document supersedes your birth certificate, your marriage certificates. This document supersedes your land ownership, that document that bequeaths upon you title in land. This document supersedes every other document that you might have. This is the 2010 Constitution of the People's Republic of Kenya. This document is very important because there is nothing you will ever aspire to as a Kenyan that does not find origination from this document. There's no aspiration, no ambition that you will ever have as a Kenyan that does not find footing from this document. So whenever you have anything that you wish to achieve at the marketplace, if you're an entrepreneur, this is the greatest document you will ever understand. This document will give you business opportunities you've never imagined existed. So the other day when I was going through the Constitution, like is my custom, I came across something quite interesting. The document begins with the preamble. The preamble is an introductory statement in any legal instrument that helps you to understand what to expect. So this document begins with preamble. We, the people of Kenya, acknowledging the supremacy of the Almighty God of all creation. There is something that is quite different from that, from our national anthem. Our national anthem says, O God of all creations. This document says that we acknowledge the supremacy of the Almighty God of all creation. That one spiked my curiosity. Why would the national anthem have, O God of all creations, but when it comes to the Constitution, it is the God of all creation? There are possibly two explanations to that. The document probably looks at the entirety of the creations as a single organism, or the Constitution approaches creation in individuality. So I will leave that to your own assessment, but that one spiked my curiosity. The preamble continues to say, honoring those who heroically struggled to bring freedom and justice to our land. So in this constitution, there are two things that will always be a pair, and that one is freedom and justice. So this constitution is founded on that premise that if you are in the pursuit of freedom, chances are this constitution will give you audience. If you are in the pursuit of justice on land, on our land, then the constitution similarly will give you audience. Proud of our ethnic, cultural, and religious diversity, and determined to live in peace and unity as one indivisible sovereign nation. Respectful of the environment, which is our heritage, and determined to sustain it for the benefit of future generations. Committed to nurturing and protecting the well-being of the individual, the family, communities, and the nation. Recognizing the aspirations of all Kenyans for a government based on the essential values of human rights: equality, freedom, democracy, social justice, and the rule of law. Exercising our sovereign and inalienable right to determine the form of governance of our country, and having participated fully in the making of this constitution, we adopt, enact, and give this constitution to ourselves and to our future. What sparked my curiosity is that the constitution in the first provision, in acknowledgement, the supremacy of the Almighty God of all creation. That spiked my curiosity because when you look at another subsequent article, it's important for us to understand that this constitution, the provisions of the constitutions are called article. The provisions of a constitution are not clauses, they are not sections, they are articles. You interact with that phrase called article when you're looking at the document that gives birth to an organization, a company. It's called an article of association. So when you want to understand the DNA structure of an organization, you look at their articles of association. That is why the document that gives birth to a country, the document that gives birth to a people, that document, if you look at the DNA strand of the nation called Kenya, that DNA strand is informed by the constitutional provision. That is why from today, never say section of the constitution. A constitution is not made up of sections. The constitution is made up of articles, because in the constitution are the DNA strands that bring something. If you want to look at my structure, my DNA construction, you look at my DNA structure, and that structure is to the extent of what we would call the Constitution of Kenya. So let's go back. The preamble in the first provision says, acknowledging the supremacy of the Almighty God. That one spiked my curiosity because in Article 8, the Constitution emphatically states that there shall be no state religion. Let me give us a crash course. There is something called the infallibility of the Constitution. In Article 2 of the Kenyan Constitution, Article 2.3 says that the validity or the legality of this constitution is not subject to challenge. So that means whenever you think that the constitution is out of line, begin with this. The constitution is right. This constitution is not wrong. So if you ever get a wild idea that this thing can be wrong, you start by saying, I realize I'm the one who is on the wrong. So that is the infallibility of this constitution, that this constitution cannot be challenged. So we are not challenging this constitution. We just want to understand that might there be something in this constitution that goes beyond before us noticing, that goes without us noticing. There are three important keys that I would want to bring to our attention that will help us to understand something basic. One, if you ever want to understand a legal document or a document that has legal consequence, you need three important rules. The first one is what is called the literal rule. In the literal rule, you just look at words literally, what they mean on their own say. So you read a document and that document informs its own meaning by how it is structured. That is the literal rule. The literal rule is just you reading and you derive value from what you've read. The other one is the golden rule. In the golden rule, we look at what might these people be after. What might this law, the operation of this law, what might it be for? That is what it's called the golden rule. The purpose, the intent for this statute, the intent for this instrument. That is where we always look for a phrase that what was the intention of the drafters? What was the spirit behind the drafters of such and such? But where I wanted us to talk about is what it's called the mischief rule, because I want us to apply the mischief rule to help us understand how the preamble is structured and the repugnance the preamble might have with Article 8. Remember, you begin with the Constitution is right, I am wrong. So let's go for the mischief rule. The mischief rule is, what is written? I don't want to look at what is written on its face value. Because if I appreciate what is written on its face value, chances are what is written will mislead me. And that is what I want us to use to understand. I want us to apply the mischief rule in understanding the acknowledgement of the supremacy of the Almighty God. The name God is not a name. The title or the word God is not a name. God is a title that gives certain relevance to an entity that bears certain traits. So an individual that is to be deemed as God must be embodying certain traits, must embody certain characterization. So when this constitution says that we the people of Kenya acknowledging the supremacy of the article there is for specificity, meaning one. So if that means that this preamble says that there is an existing being there, it would have been different if it was acknowledging the supremacy of any almighty, right? But when the constitution used the phrase there, then that is article specific. So then that means, might the constitution be alluding to something else that you and I might be misled on? That when we look at it on the basis of this is the God that the Christians identify with, then the Christians would say, let's call it Jesus. And this thing is so much consistent even in the oaths of office that are in subsequent schedules in this constitution. In the oaths of office, the oaths end up with, so help me God. But when we are beginning, we are giving an impression that it is something specific, a deity that is specific. This constitution does not make any implication to the faith that currently exists. This constitution provides in its operation something that I would want us to appreciate. What is God? God is any entity that brings to exist from nothing. That is God. So when something can bring to exist, when something can create, there's a huge difference between making something, building something, and creating something. So the constitution gives us that there is something that this constitution acknowledges, that thing gives appearance, and that thing gives expression, and that thing brings to the fore the existence of a thing. And that power is what the constitution regards as God. Have you ever heard of something called the Constitution created the office of the president? Have you ever come across that phrase? The Constitution created a being called a citizen. The Constitution created a being or an entity called Kenya. The entity called Kenya did not exist, especially in our constitutional dispensation, did not exist before the 2010 constitution. I know you will tell me, Mr. Gwang, Kenya has already existed. Let me tell you, the moment this constitution came into force, anything that existed prior did not exist. So everything that exists today exists because it was created. Before this document was ever promulgated, before it was brought to force, you are just a being, you are just a human. But after the constitution came into force, you became a Kenyan. So this constitution has created what is called Kenya. This constitution has created an arm of government that is called the judiciary. This constitution has created an entity called the police service. This constitution has created something called county governments, devolved government. This constitution has created. So when this constitution says that it is acknowledging a supreme being, and that being is almighty, what do you think the constitution is alluding at? as far as this constitution is concerned, it is God. That is what I wanted you to understand. That this constitution has given to itself powers that you cannot challenge. And I even started by telling us the infallibility of this constitution. That when you want to challenge this constitution, the validity or the legality of this constitution is not subject to challenge. So this constitution is all-knowing. This constitution is everywhere. As far as we are concerned, there is no part in Kenya today that this document does not exist. So the mere fact that this document operates as being omnipresent, as though as this document is operating to be all-knowing, that is when you want to go before a court of law and you want to give testimony, or when you want to give evidence, you swear an oath that I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me. This constitution has given to itself power that it is a God. Because this constitution has created the territory called Kenya and every other thing in the totality of that territory. That is why when you are approaching the acknowledgement, it is not accidental, it's not typographical error. When you're looking at the acknowledgement that the supremacy of the Almighty God of all creation, the Constitution creates to the extent of what Constitution provides, what Constitution avails. That is to the extent that the Constitution has created. This Constitution is God in the territory of Kenya. This Constitution has created, and this Constitution operates in similar nature as the deity. You know, we always have this thing in constitutional and in political science that vox populi, vox dei. That word, that vox populi, vox dei, which means that the voices of the masses is the voice of God, that thing is also an illusion. Because that thinks that when people agree, their voice have become God unto themselves. That is what the Greeks meant by that phrase. The Latin, that is what they meant by that phrase. Vox populi, what the people have decided, that becomes a God unto themselves. My name is Ogwang, and welcome to Constitutional Thursday. I will see you next week, and we will learn how to unpack this document. And I promise you, when we are done, you will see things in this document you have never seen anywhere. I will see you in the next one. Until then, take care. God bless, and bye-bye.